What is poppin', basketball fans? Welcome back to Bucketology. Today we're going to be talking about the number one seed in the Western Conference, your Denver Nuggets, and specifically the X Factor, the key component, what this team needs if they want to win an NBA championship. Because let's keep it a buck, this team is a weak-ass one seed, especially for the standards of a Western Conference team. Now, we have to acknowledge the state of the Western Conference this year. I've never seen anything like it. There is not a strong anything seed in this conference as far as I'm concerned. Real championship contenders. I mean, once again, we have to be honest. We have to be real with ourselves. Are the three best teams in the NBA not in the Eastern Conference? Can we admit this? I think we can maybe have a little debate between the Sixers and the Nuggets. Man, if this championship matchup happened, I'm skeptical that it will, but hypothetical, we see these two teams facing off. Are we not taking the Sixers just as a greater collection of parts? Nuggets have some very real and legitimate issues with their team. This is far from a perfect storm of talent collection, coaching, chemistry, offense, defense, depth. I mean, how many of those things do they really have? They don't have depth. They have 6 players, essentially. There will be big minutes where this team has to lean on certain guys who have not gotten too much run on the season. I'm talking about a Jeff Green. Sure, he's got experience, but 36 years old. How much can you really afford to play him? Vlatko Konchar, the rookie Christian Brown, who's filling in for Nikola Jokic when he's off the court. Basically the biggest concern with depth, but in general, I mean, besides Bruce Brown, how many reserve players can you think of that this team has that can be relied on to play 20 good minutes in an important game? Against the cream of the crop competition in your conference, guys that are going to be game planning against your weaknesses, this is a clear one right here. Especially if there is an injury to one of your key players, you're toast. If one of your 4 or 5 best guys, even Bruce Brown, if he sustains something bad, has to miss games, it's just really hard to imagine how this team is going to put together 48 good minutes of basketball if something like that were to happen. We know what happens in the playoffs. Shit gets more physical, more taxing on the body. Injuries are not only probable, they're inevitable for almost every team. Someone is going to lose somebody that provides an important service to their team. So this team doesn't have any rim protection. Point of attack defensive guards are scarce. As far as defense goes, you have Aaron Gordon, you have KCP, Bruce Brown is a good defensive player. Those are your 3 best defenders. You look at the rest of this conference, pretty much every team can tote 3 better defenders as their top 3 guys than this team. And of course, no second all-star. Nikola Jokic, to this point in his NBA career, I do not believe he has ever played with another all-star player, and that's where Jamal Murray comes in. And so, considering the previous factors I just listed, the combination of such does not resemble a championship team, and that is why I call this team a weak-ass 1 seed, hence why Jamal Murray is so important. But that being said, this team did not end up number 1 for no reason, and yeah, they are number 1. Grizzlies lose today to my Chicago Bulls. They have all but clinched. They can decide if they want to rest players, which will benefit them greatly, as all these other teams, they're playing these games. Every game matters. They need everybody to try. So that does provide an advantage for the Denver Nuggets. But of course, the biggest part of why this team is so good is because of the potential 3-peating MVP of the league, Nikola Jokic. This video is not about that. I'm not going to go into detail about his MVP case or the MVP debate. We can save that for another day. That combo is very tired. Oh my God, it's been just beaten to death everywhere on the airways, anywhere you can find NBA media. But Nikola's shortcomings in playoff series have been documented and used by critics to poke a hole in his credibility as such a prolific regular season player, and so there's a lot of pressure on him. And I'm not saying these criticisms are wrong or right. I mean, surely some of them are ridiculous, and his greatness does transfer to the NBA playoffs, but he has just not had the facilities, the ensemble to make deep playoff runs, right? The only time he got to the conference finals was when we were in the bubble Murray, of course, bring me back to the point, like he's out there playing with Austin Rivers last year. Not exactly the elite group of guys. He really did just drag a team to the playoffs that had no business. That is why he is the MVP as a 6th seed. I understood it, and it's hard to expect that team to beat the eventual champion Golden State Warriors in the first round. And we can talk about home court advantage for this year. Like, every team can play. There are so few good matchups. Looking at this conference, who do you really want to play? You don't want to play any of these teams. Besides, like, Minnesota's going to lose themselves out of the playoffs. It's not even going to matter. But everybody that actually makes the playoffs, you don't want to play these guys. And so the importance and the value of home court advantage is clear. Problem with this team, and I'm gonna get to Jamal in a second, I just have to establish what this team is. They will outscore the other team. They're not getting stops. All year, they have not had a good defensive team. The general rule for a championship team, you gotta have a top 10 offense, top 10 defense. I mean, there are anomalies, but in general, balance is key. Glaring weaknesses are just holes other teams can exploit. You know how much game planning and adjustments goes into a 7-game series? If you have a true weakness on one side of the ball that can be exploited, it will be exploited and you will lose. And that is the story of how playoff basketball has been. So having such a lack of defensive firepower, it is how this team can lose and likely will lose. Opposing guards will have field days getting into the paint, and so even though this team can play clutch defense and they can really use momentum to generate stops even if they don't have great defenders on the floor, that's a big emphasis of coaching and chemistry and just playing at home, which they have used to their benefit all season. Best home record in the NBA. Always hard to play in Denver, of course, with the altitude, but they're just going to have to outscore teams. They're going to have to run up 120, 130 point games. Their offense is going to have to be a master class. And how does this happen with one all-star on your team? Well, you're going to need your second guy to become Bubble Murray, the second all-star, the second star, devastating force. We remember from the bubble, it was one of the highlights on the only conference finals appearance that the Joker Nuggets have had. 26 points per game. He's shooting 45% from 3 on massive volume. And this year, they don't have a team like the 2020 Lakers that they could run into that is like just a dominant force in the conference. They are the 1 seed. They are the quote-unquote dominant force. There isn't another team that has established continuity to the degree that they have this year. So Jamal absolutely over-delivered in his last postseason appearance. That was the last time that we saw him. And so much so that we questioned the validity of it. Like, was it a fluke? Was it just Bubble Murray? Will we ever see this guy again? And he's not the only one. We remember TJ Warren. People were saying Jimmy Bubble, La Mickey, A Disney. It doesn't count. It was in the bubble, right? So there's always going to be a knock on a guy or an asterisk if some people want to say, use that as a criticism. I don't really agree, but like, we haven't seen it. I mean, TJ Warren, that we're literally never going to see TJ Warren score 50 points in a game ever again. It's never going to happen. Jamal Murray, obviously a lot more established. He's had some great seasons. He's had another great season this year. Not an all-star season, but in the ballpark. And that's kind of like the season he was having the last time he was able to play a full season, or at least until he suffered the devastating ACL injury that he missed all of last year rehabbing from. That was the 2021 season where he plays 48 games and this Nuggets team looks really good. He gets hurt and your playoff aspirations are pretty much dead in the water. Get swept by the Suns in the second round. See you later. But with a healthy Jamal Murray, what do we know about the guy as a basketball player? Well, he is an elite volume 3-point scorer. He is just generally better at home, as is the team, of course. But the discrepancy in terms of 3-point shooting is absolutely wild. You look at his last 20 home games, and these numbers are absolutely nuts. Off dribble, off catch, moving shots, chemistry with the Joker. The reason they were able to get so far and play so well, not only is he just bombs away, shooting out of his mind, but the way these guys work off each other, dribble handoff game, and just the repetition and the continuity that they have established with that, it's dangerous. Guy's a tough shot maker, and he can hit him at home and just break open a defense. But one thing I worry about with him is his ability, or inability I should say, to create easy shots for himself. He has a low free throw rate, shoots a lot of moving jumpers, and he's uncanny good at them. He's one of the best tough shot makers in the league. But can you rely on that to win you playoff series after series? I don't think so. And so unless he can maintain, and that's why it's so important that they play these games at home, because he is so much better at making these shots at home, I don't think that can carry you to a championship. And so the thing with Bubble Murray is that he was just making those shots over and over and over again. He didn't have a lot of off games. Now they got farther into the playoffs, they play the Lakers, you play a good team, a better team, and it's just harder to be consistent with that. But against the Jazz, you already knew what time it was. But if he can't consistently deliver the goods on the road, it just elevates the importance of what he does at home, because he hasn't been super consistent on the road this year. Neither is the team, obviously. This is a team that they literally have to win every home game. If they lose one home game, pressure's on them. And do you really believe in them to win a road game against a lot of these teams in the West that probably have a good counter for what they do? I'm not sure. So last thing I'm going to say, why this is so important, it's because of Joker. And we know how this offense is going to be, everything through Joker, a guy that can only do so much, especially when other teams are targeting him on every play on defense. He's going to be putting a million pick and rolls. If he's just getting killed over and over again, if he's exerting all his energy trying to defend and stop guys from coming into the lane shooting layups over him, how much can he really do on the offensive end? Can he have the usage rate where he is just making every play on the offensive end and then guarding every play on the defensive end? That's a huge concern. Certain teams I know will have a good recipe to counter the way that Joker plays offense. When Jamal gets hot, there really isn't much of an answer for him. When he starts hitting these shots, what do? You gotta just hope he misses. You guard him as good as he can, and oftentimes he's still gonna knock him down, especially in his building. So his contributions must emerge early and often, He has to be like he was in the bubble, where he is as much of a threat to score or make a play as Joker is, and that's just so much to ask. So that's why he's the X factor here. The only guy you can really point to and say take over the game outside of Joker. I mean, we know what he's gonna do, but this team wants to win a championship. They're a number 1 seed. Let me know what you guys think about. The Nuggets really have a shot. Is this team really gonna do something in the playoffs? I'm not trying to come off as just a massive doubter of this team, but it's just more about the chance that so many of these teams in this conference have, as opposed to oftentimes the number 1 seed is like, oh, they're gonna go all the way. They're gonna get to the chip, or at least they are the general favorite. And the Nuggets, I don't know if a lot of people really have this team coming out of the West, to be honest. So hope y'all enjoyed. Love y'all. Peace out.